one thing that I feel like kind of is similar to this is where if I were to try to roll it back into one more bit of time is the the whole the winning and losing. Uh, that it's pervasive in sports that it's always been, and it is. I've always admitted that the point, the object of a game is to win,
Yeah.
and it should be. And winning and losing is a very important lesson. But where did we get to a point where it's the only thing, and why we relish the losing?
Yeah.
Where did that? When did you think? Because I feel like maybe I don't know if I could define a time period where it didn't exist in my life,
Hmm.
where like winning has
Yeah.
always been the end all be
Yeah.
all.
Yeah. Well, same with me. I think we live in a culture and a time when competition is everywhere. And if it's capitalism feeds into that, it's who's got the nicer car. I can remember when I was a kid, it was competition with my uncles as to who had the nicest car or
Mm.
who was the first to have a video camera. And so I've never known a time where there wasn't competition. And I think it's really been very pervasive for decades. Even before. I think my mom probably felt competition with her siblings when she was growing up. So I think competition is. I talk about it that way rather than winning and losing, like
Yeah.
it's like a game. I think it's trying to be one up on your neighbor to try to be better than in some way has just been school fuels that. I tried to be number one in my class, but my cousin Denny was better. He was number one, and I was number two. And so, you know, I think it's just part of our living in this culture at this time.
So I wonder then, it begs the question. Maybe I need to turn it on its side a little bit. Has it always been so disrespectful?
No, I think it's always been competitive, but I think that the in your faceness of it, the disrespectful thing, I've seen that I'd say the last 20 years has become increasingly um, more present. And that coincides with social media. Uh, there's certain cultural things happening, probably with the economy, where the rich people are getting richer, and certain people just can't get out of poverty or can't get off middle class. So there's a lot of things. Be interesting to study more about that. Some people probably have looked more closely, but I do think it's escalating. I worry that it's not done escalating yet either. I still think it's on the rise.
And I even thought about like how many people do you think are sports fans that actually appreciate the beauty of the sport, and how many of them are sports fans because they want
Yeah.
their team to have more points at the end?
I would say, I would guess around 10%.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I want my team to win too every time. But I always ask that question: if you were to go to your favorite team's game, and you could either have your favorite player play and your team lose, or your
Yeah.
favorite player sits out and your team wins.
Yeah.
And everybody I ask always say they would prefer to have their favorite player sit out and their team win.
Yeah.
I I can't. I don't. I mean, I get the question is intentionally provocative in that I'm saying, are you comfortable with your team losing? Most people would say, well, no, I don't want to lose. But I've even questioned that before. And I'll maybe try to keep this one brief, but I've coached a basketball game or two, younger basketball games where my team has been superior to the other team, and I've coached my players in such a way to take their foot off the gas a little bit. Now, I haven't said, well, those kids over on the other side, they're terrible, so you need to lay off. I just say, look, you're not stealing the first pass. You're staying between your player and the basket. On offense, we're going to run our offense. 5 passes. And I don't want you shooting any threes. I want you to, take a take a reasonable layup if you can get one, right? So that we can have some continuity in the game, and let's just get it over with because we're ahead by a lot. There's no reason to bury him. And I've brought this up before on social media, and 99.99999% of the people are against. They're like, no, it's competition. You gotta foot on the gas, and it's interesting. One time somebody said, well, what happens if you take your foot off the gas and your team loses? And I said, well, if you do,
Yeah.
then what a great story for that other team that made a comeback. That's a
Yeah.
great experience for them.
Right.
And I would tell my players at the end of the game, I would say, look, I asked you guys to work on, I adjusted the way that we were playing, and the other team got momentum and they won the game. So that's the responsibility is on me. I made those decisions that led to that outcome. But I feel like people are afraid to lose. Like it's
Yes.
a fear. It's literally something that I don't understand. I don't like to lose at
Yeah.
all. I don't. I'd rather win every game I coach.
Yeah.
But why do you think that's am I overreacting that people are afraid of it?
No, I think that they are worried about it. They feel bad and they don't want to feel bad. So they overemphasize the final score, um, and kind of miss the point of sports, which is to kind of show your skill, go up against other people. That's the meat of it. But it's really gone way, way, way too far to just win, baby. And I think it's a real travesty. And I think those people who appreciate sport just for the pureness of it, are very rare persons, and they're probably a lot more happy with sports than because most people, on most people's teams, if you look at college football or basketball, most fans' experiences are that their team loses. So in the NCAA tournament, there's going to be one winner, and everybody
Yeah,
else is a loser. So I think it's just gonna be really tough for most people because most people's teams are going to lose, and
yep,
the one who wins is only for 1 year, and then the next year they're going to probably be a loser.
yep.
And oh, by the way, I just noticed too that this last week Lute Olson died,
I
who
know.
was the coach of the Hawkeyes for many years, and John
Uh,
Thompson died,
yeah,
who was the
cool.
coach of Georgetown.
Yeah, super
But
sad.
I think that those guys, it'd be interesting to know about their philosophy. I mean, think of John Wooden as well, that they really work to have people be excellent, but that winning and losing was not the main point, So even though the obituary shows their one loss record, I think that's not really the significant thing. It's really, what they did for those players, and how they, were influential in their lives, apart from the final score of the NCAA tournament games. But we still like to calibrate people's reputation based upon wins and losses.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not even saying I'm against the idea of it as people get older and in college, and professional ranks. I mean, it gets to be pretty serious, and players are really developed. But I'm just, my main focus is on the younger ages and young
Yeah.
kids. Like, what is it? What are we indoctrinating them with when, you hear stories about win at all costs, or like. I've heard stories of people say that when they were in high school and they were playing football, their coach said, "I want you to go out there and hurt their running back or go hurt the quarterback because if they get hurt and they get knocked out of the game, then you have a better chance to win." And it's like,
Yeah.
what are you teaching these young people if you're saying win at all costs?
Yeah. I remember the comment that Ryan Oval made to you at the Y, when you put up a half court shot at the end, it missed. He came up and congratulated, said that was a great, great attempt to make that shot. Now
Yeah,
that's sportsmanship. That's
yeah,
being a good winner, and
yeah,
that's taking the disappointment that your opponent is feeling and responding to them genuinely. I think in a way to hold them up.
yep. That's like that video I shared of the best friends in the baseball game where the one struck the other one out to go on in the tournament, and his teammates were all jumping up and down, but he ran right to the batter.
Right.
You know that.
That's what sports is about, I think, but it's a minority opinion right now. It's really it's
Yeah,
you know I'm in a decided minority to appreciate that kind of stuff.
yeah. Well, and it's that. Like I said, and this may be a longer topic for another time, but that's where I see this COVID time has really made me look at sports and a lot of what's toxic about it. And for as much as I love sport, and I've been coaching now for 19 years, um, I I feel like it's a breeding ground for people to learn how to be prejudiced and identity politics, and you teach your kid right away to hate the Cardinals, or and their fans, or whatever rival it is of whatever sport you follow, whatever team you follow, they have a rival, and you're supposed to hate them. It's like
Mhm.
you're going to teach your kids this. This is a good idea. We're going to start by saying by one factor of these people, you're going to say based on that you should dislike them.
Mhm.
That's a good lesson we should be teaching our kids. You know,
Right. That'd be a good exercise is to pick a team that right now you really detest or that you really have learned to dislike. And then, like, say, if you're a Hawkeye fan, that you should learn to like Michigan or Ohio State or someone, and then just take it upon yourself to really try to come to like them, just to see what that would feel like. That sort of thing would probably be much more fruitful than just feeding the tiger, just always building this, the Hawkeyes are the best and the Wolverines are the bad guys or whatever it is.
well, and I can see how even just as a parent, if you're letting your kids see you, there can be rivalries, and there can be
Sure.
rivalries that you're excited about, but um, have them see how it's just about the event and
Yeah.
the event, the game itself, and it's good spirited, and then after that, you don't have any animosity
No.
towards that team or that fan base or anything like that.
Yeah.
Um, because I just feel like that's one of the ways where it starts, because no one challenges that. No one says, well, you shouldn't teach your kids that, because that is grounds for them to become very prejudiced against other groups for just the fact that they're in that group later in life, especially if they don't know much about that other group, whatever that may be.
Yeah. So, like,
Um,
taking it to a bigger arena, like, say, if you happen to come to think that Iran is a terrorist country or um, Russia is bad people or something, that you just say, wait a minute, that's the government. Um, Not everybody in that country is bad. Um, they may have different ways of seeing the world, but I want to come to like some Iranians. I want to find out what's cool about Iran. I want to find out what's cool about Russia. Instead of what we get is this kind of polarized, Chinese people are bad or, North Koreans are bad people or something. We're mixing up the governments of these places with the people. So you can dislike a government, but I mean, there's a lot of people that look at the United States right now and think that the people in America are really bad people because of what they see from where they sit. And that's just not fair and representative of everybody in a country. So,
right.
in so many ways, we like to stereotype, as this team and all their fans are bad, this country and all their citizens are bad, this school, uh, Jefferson is really a great school and LaSalle is really a terrible school. Is that even still there, LaSalle?
Yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah.
a little school now.
Or so, or
But to your
Prairie?
point, yeah, to your point though, the that's another thing too on social media, where you might get a perception of a particular fan base because of what I hope is 5% of the whole population of people who are fans for any given team are
Yeah.
the ones that are the loudest, and the most disrespectful. And then what you think is they're all that way because of your interaction with 5% of them who are bold enough to just, blow up social media with the most offensive knock against the school that you follow. And then that's where then it's become socially acceptable for you to just dislike a whole fan base because you grew up and that's the way it works. So you have a bad experience with a couple of bad eggs, and you assume they're all awful, and so you're mean to all of them.
Right.
It's like, well, that's not. You can't. The only thing true about a group is what makes them that. So all left-handed people are left-handed, and then after that, all left-handed people, any other statement you try to make is wrong. It is wrong.
Yeah.
So all men are males. That's it. You can't say all men anything else. You're wrong.
Yeah.
And I think that it's too easy for us to just be prejudiced. I don't think people understand what scope they're prejudiced all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, my buddies are tired of me talking about how you want to speak to something that's systemically accepted as prejudice. It is car insurance for young men and young women. That's I can point to that and say what you're doing is you're saying that on average, boys are more reckless drivers, get in bigger accidents. Statistically, you could prove it.
Yeah.
But what you're doing is you're applying that blanket stereotype to every young man that drives. And you could have a young man and a young woman that both turn 16 on the same day.
Right.
And the young man could be an extremely responsible driver, and the young girl could be a reckless driver. But you're gonna make the family of boy pay more insurance premium because other boys are that way.
That's right.
Historically, the case. Well, how is that? That is, imagine, and I'm not even going to say some of it out loud. You can go there in your head. You take any other group and you apply that logic to any other group. You say, well, on average, they tend to get in more accidents, so your insurance is going to be higher because you are insert group here. The kind of outrage that could come from that. But what we do is then as a society, we're like, well, that is true. Boys are more aggressive and they do drive faster. It's like, well, you're stereotyping. You're literally, we've all decided that's okay. For some reason, we've decided that statistics across that category, we can be prejudiced against young men.
Right.
But we don't do it across any other boundaries.
Right.
Can you imagine if it was around race boundaries?
Why would an insurance company have such a regulation? Well, the reason they have the regulation about, boys a certain age have higher accident things, and the reason they do that is to maximize their profits. So so behind all of that is trying to make money. So organizations promote stereotypes for the purpose of maximizing their profits about paying out for claims. So in the process, they do stereotype and unfairly treat some people, but they do that in the name of profits.
Well, and it's even, I think the only other one you can really do for sure, it's still the case, I think, if you drive a red car.
Yeah.
Isn't it about like if you drive a red car, then
Yeah.
you must be a person who likes to drive fast, therefore you get a more accident. You have to pay higher insurance. Well, hold on. Like what if it's a person who's a very conservative driver that their only option was to buy this used car that happened to be red? Like, what? Like, to me, it's a very interesting, it's a very specific example of accepted prejudice against a group.
Sure. And you can trace, in many cases, you can trace it back to a profit motive. That the reason that they do the red car thing is because statistically, they can show you that more red cars get in accidents. But it's not because there's anything intrinsic about red as a car color or the owners of such cars, but they don't give a shit about that. They're only calculating the bottom line. So all of this stuff, you could trace it back to capitalist tendencies to.
I wonder if it's just being careful though that they haven't gone down further demographics to try to be more prejudiced against other groups. Like, how is it that is it just being careful? Like, it's just one of those that I know that from the beginning. I mean, I'm a reluctant driver and I'm a very careful driver, and so the idea that just because I was a male, that insurance was more for me until I got married, and then magically you're a safer driver as soon as you get married or you turn a certain age.
Yeah.
It's I get how it feeds into a stereotype. Most people wouldn't challenge it because you know young boys like to drive fast, right?
Yeah.
But
Well,
again, the only thing you think about young boys is that they're all young boys, and after that, you're wrong.
when I got up here, I was looking for an SUV, and my insurance company said, "Don't get a Pilot, a Honda Pilot." And I said, "Well, why not?" It's because they're more likely to be stolen, and so you'll have higher interest if you buy a Pilot versus another kind of SUV. And I said, "Well,
Yeah,
why is the Pilot stolen more often?" And he said, "I don't know. It just
but that's
is." And so again, it's you get caught in these kinds of stereotypes for based upon gender, based upon age, based upon car color, based upon model of car. But it all traces back that the insurance companies are trying to maximize their profits, and they see these patterns, and so they don't really give a shit about what impact it has or on the person or if someone's being treated unfairly, a good male driver versus a crazy female driver. They're just interested in the bottom line.
right, right. Anyway, that's
Well, we
something
might
I
be
like
able
my
to. I need to kind of get off the computer
yeah,
now,
yeah.
but this is good, great, and maybe we want to pick up with this or some other one of these themes. We could. This competitive theme, I think, is a really good one. There's a
Yeah.
lot to it, and its connection to our society and how long has this been going on, and what's to happen next if we continue down this road.
Yeah.
Uh, I'll be doing some reading and looking around at some more thoughts about these ideas.
All right. Sounds
Okay,
good.
all right.
Thanks.
Have a good
Talk to you
day.
soon.
See
You
ya.
too.
Bye-bye.